people to filter in. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes to let people filter in because it's going to be a busy session today. So we'll give it a couple of minutes and we'll start in 2 minutes time. Maybe 1 minute time if you're getting quickly. I want to see how many people are coming through. Okay, the number is starting to stabilize a little bit. So I'm going to kick off with the session now, and the session will be recorded. So hello, everyone. My name is Claudia Anderson. I'm the Membership Engagement Manager here at RCOT. I want to start this session by saying that it's great to have so many of you on the call with us today. This session really is for you, so please do introduce yourselves in the chat, use this as a chance to interact, and make sure you add questions in the chat as well, because we've got time for Q&A at the end. We'll pick up your questions as we go where we can in the chat, so please do make sure that you kind of be as interactive as possible. A couple of housekeeping bits as well. So as I've just said, the session will be recorded. And we'll send the recording and the slides around to all of you in the next couple of days as well. And feel free to forward that on to anyone who might have missed the sign up. The website, it will all go on our website as well, so they can have access to it there. Now I'm just going to introduce you. As you can see on the screen, we've got some guest speakers with us today. Find out a little bit more about them. We're really lucky to have some representatives from our retired community on the call with us today. So I'd like you both to introduce yourselves. So start with Helen. Come off mute and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Helen Tomes. I was an occupational therapist, note the word was an occupational therapist for 32 years, and I retired 5 years ago. And I think I've done more or less every specialty in OT in one way or another.
Brilliant, thanks Helen. And Sue?
Oh, good afternoon. I'm Sue Hills. I am technically not yet retired. I'm sort of puttering around trying to decide when the right time to go is, but I actually finished clinical practice in 2020, having first qualified in 1980. So yeah, I wear quite a big badge on my shoulder for OT.
Brilliant, thanks so much, Sue. And just to flag everyone, if Sue was cutting out a little bit for you there, she does have we're having some internet issues at the moment, but we're going to persevere, and if we do lose Sue's sound at any point, she's going to be in the chat giving us all her thoughts as well, so don't worry about that. It's great to have you both with us today, and I did want to give a special shout out to another one of our community, Susan Krause, who is unable to chat with us on the call today, but she's been really instrumental in making this event happen. And as we have a panel discussion coming up later, I'm going to be sharing some of Susan's thoughts as well. So although she can't be with us on the call today, she's very much here in spirit. We've also got some of our RCOT team on the call with us today. So Sahila, would you like to introduce yourself, Beth?
Yes, thank you, Claudia. Good afternoon, everybody. And like Claudia said, so lovely that so many of you have given up your lunch hour or your time to be with us today. I'm Suhaila Mohammed. I'm an occupational therapist. I work at the Royal College of Occupational Therapists as the head of practice and workforce. I've been a member of RCOT since I was a student member, which is back in 2015. I joined then and haven't left. Really looking forward to the session with you all today. Thank you. Back to you, Claudia.
Brilliant, thanks so much, Sahila. And last but not least, Rachel.
Good afternoon, everybody. Please, can I just clarify, you don't have to wear your hair in a bun to work at RCOT. I'm a professional advisor on a temporary contract with the Professional Advisory Service, and I qualified as an occupational therapist from what was then Dorset House back in 1992. So aside from a brief period of time off the register when I completed my return to practice requirements last year following an internship at RCOT. So yeah, it's wonderful that so many of you are here today, and I'll look forward to the questions later. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you so much. So without further ado, we're going to start today's kind of panel discussion because we've got a jam-packed schedule today and I want to make sure that we're making the most of our time. So as I said, we've got Helen and Sue on the call with us. We've also had, we've got Susan's thoughts to share as well. So I'd just like to start with the first question, which is around transitioning to retirement. So obviously, given the name of our event today, so transition to retirement is such a pivotal moment in all of our lives. There's so much to consider, from paperwork to finances, and that's without even trying to get your head into your new role in the world. So how have your experiences shaped your approach to this, and what advice would you offer fellow RCOT members when considering the practicalities of retiring? So Sue, we'll go to you first.
Right, okay. I've been thinking about it from age 60 and had to take a fairly decision to go. Then decided for various reasons, health reasons, that I'd hang on a bit longer. So I eventually retired at 62. Retired from clinical practice. With my NHS pension, I took a larger lump sum and a small amount each month as a way of trying to balance the gap between that and my state pension. So that worked reasonably well. And I was obviously non-tax paying for some while. So it was a very serious discussion about whether I stayed registered as a clinician and whether I continued to be a RCOT member, because I couldn't offset those against tax. It's been interesting trying to balance all that financial side of things, and I would say I think my lump sum has taken a significant hammering, but that's fine. You know, that's what it's there for, isn't it?
Well, thank you, Sue. And Helen, do you want to offer some thoughts on that?
I think it may come out in another question as well, but I retired with no plan whatsoever. Had a quick chat with my brother, who had a look at my finances and said, yeah, you'd be all right. So and due to the circumstances of my last job, which I loved, but came to an end rather abruptly when the service was TP'd out, I had no plan at all. So all I would offer maybe for this question is, I don't see retirement as a one-stop transition. I'm now studying for a master's and doing retirement health as my subject. And in it, I don't think I've got the terminology right, but you've got the contemplation stage, which I saw from a few things popping up in the chat that people are probably past that and they've got plans to retire fairly soon. The decision, as Sue's been saying, the decision itself is a big part of it. Then there's the realization, the reality strikes. Retirement, I don't know what I was expecting, but it probably wasn't what I expected. And then later acceptance. And I think I'm moving into the acceptance phase. But this is after 5 years. So don't see it as a one-stop work one day, going on countless cruises the next.
No, that makes perfect sense. And when
I would say though,
oh, sorry, go on, Sue.
So I would say if you're planning to go on a cruise, do it now, because circumstances may mean you can't do it in the future.
Yeah, when we were catching up with Susan, she was saying something similar around just sorting out all of your work information and stuff that you no longer need. It'll be hard, but it'll also bring back good memories when you think about it. If you can't bear to part with something and you think it might be useful, then keep it. But even things like sorting out your old work clothes, if you've got them, you know, will I really wear these things again? Remembering that you only need so many clothes for decorating and gardening, and what to do with the rest. But she did say as well, like, most importantly, understanding your finances, knowing exactly what your income will be, and even more important, what your outgoings are going to be. I think she was saying that her husband was 4 years older than her, so they had a table of when he was going to retire versus when she was going to retire and what the difference would be, and looking at things like the tax allowance, and also looking at offers for retired people. So whether it's meals in pubs, whether it's cheaper cinema tickets, making sure that your savings are earning the maximum interest, and then obviously making the decision with your lump sum and what you're going to do with that. But I think there's so much to think about, and I think just getting organized is what the key message is. I know, Helen, you kind of had a different experience where you were maybe a little bit more laid back about the whole thing. And I know that Susan is such a planner, she was saying, so it's very much a balance, and there's loads of different ways to approach it, isn't there? And I think that's the whole thing with retirement. It means making significant adjustments, particularly in terms of mental well-being and also establishing new routines. So on that, how have you navigated these changes, and what strategies have you found most effective in going from, through retirement in terms of maintaining a healthy mindset and daily structure post-retirement? So Helen, we'll come to you first this time.
Well, this might strike horror into everyone's hearts if they're looking forward to giving up work, but I decided to keep up with my clinical supervision. I've had the same supervision partner for many years, and I felt that in order to get some structure and some meaning out of the next phase of my life, which is retirement, rather than treat it as a kind of, well, there we are, I've stepped off the cliff and off I go into obscurity, I felt I needed some direction. And that has been one of the best things. There's lots of best things, but that's one of the best decisions that I made. I think, I don't know. Yeah, I've completely forgotten what the question is. That's another thing that happens.
That's all right, no worries. So it was just around how you navigated the changes and kind of having that daily structure.
I might come back.
Yeah, Stu, do you want to jump in?
Yes, I retired literally on the cusp of COVID, so I was planning to go back and do some work, but it didn't happen. In a way, I'm quite glad it didn't, but I lost that connection because all my colleagues were nose down trying to deal through all the, the COVID. It was really difficult. So I used social media, and I got some fantastic advice from people on X. One suggested I resume blogging, and I found that was a really great way of assimilating what was going on and what I was thinking of things. And so I use that as a way of reflecting about changes, and it's about, because I'm not doing it quite so much now. So I think, the whole transition thing about retirement is more, I'm finding it more acceptable, I think, in my own mind. Plus, I love being busy, so I do a lot of volunteering. I didn't sadly qualify with a degree, and I did think that maybe I'd do a degree once I retired, but actually it's a cost, and I can't afford the cost.
Yeah, and it's one of those things to think about, isn't it? Yeah. I think what Susan was saying, was quite similar. She was saying that she still panics sometimes 3 years in, we're getting up and having nothing planned, and I know that's so different for other people who might see that as an absolute joy. But she was saying about people having structure at different levels. So having kind of semi-regular plans, but also the ability in your diary to be impulsive as well. And keeping physically active was one of the things that she said really helped to keep her on track in terms of daily structure and having those kind of time allotments of what you're going to be doing with yourself. And really thinking about how you're going to spend your time, and also thinking about what other people's expectations of your time when you're retired are going to be, and understanding that they might not be the same as what you're expecting. Say, for example, if you've got grandchildren, it might be the expectation from a family that you're going to look after them 1 day a week, and you might not have been planning that. So yeah, there's very much variations in terms of thinking about how other people are going to see your time, versus what you actually want to do with your time as well. Brilliant, thank you so much. So one of the key, Helen, yep.
Just really quickly. I know nobody's asked for my advice, but my advice would be, don't tightly pack your week too much. 2 reasons. One is it'll start to feel like work, and you'll be chasing your tail. And the other is, if you come across as very busy, people will stop asking you to do those unexpected things, and you'll have no gaps to do it anyway. So that was a piece of very wise advice from an elderly speech and language therapist at the pre-retirement course held by our COT, as it was then, that I went to, and it's been the best piece of advice I think that I've had.
Yeah, not wanting to seem so busy that no one asks you to do anything anymore. Yeah, Stu, jump in.
I agree, flexibility. I've been still, because I'm registered to lecture and to talk, and I also do
Mhm.
long arm supervision for students, and
Mhm.
it's having that flexibility and looking at the skills and the opportunities that you've got available to say, what gives me value? And what
Yeah.
can I give back in that as value to the profession and to my community? And that's very much where I came from. It's that give and take. And as an OT, it's always been about give and take. And it's always about looking at occupation that fulfills you. And you can do to support other people to feel fulfilled. Definitely.
I think that's one of when thinking about full retirement versus semi-retirement as well. One of the things that we were thinking about is what do you think the key factors are? And I know there's quite a lot going on in the chat at the moment, so forgive me if everyone's already talking about this, but the key factors when thinking about full retirement or semi-retirement. So Susan was saying that it's important to remember that OT is a shortage profession. And if you do decide you want to go back, I'm sure that you'll be welcome with open arms, what she said. If you can't envisage how you'll spend your days and your time any other way, maybe semi-retirement is a good introduction. But look at the possibilities for retire and return, or doing something completely different. So whether you just want to still have a job, maybe you still don't want to be an OT. So Sue, what are your kind of thoughts on full retirement versus semi-retirement?
Again, I think it's very much a transition. It was something that I looked at what I found joyful in my work that I couldn't actually fulfill because of the daily work that I had to do. And certainly working with students and working with supporting people, to my colleagues, to develop their skills was really important to me. And that's why I've carried on doing the supervision, because for me, it's seeing people flourish and understand their own motivations is really great. And I've managed to link my supervision for students with one of the charities that I volunteer for. So that's been really great. But I can see it coming to an end, because I can see that the whole process of having to be in the moment perhaps is less important to me now.
Right. Interesting. And Helen, do you
Yeah.
have any thoughts on this as well?
Obviously, I chose the plunge method
Yeah.
and decided to retire. I noticed there's little words popping up from the chat, and I noticed the word vacuum came up. And in my studies, in my master's studies, this actually came up while I was chatting to one of my tutors, and she said, "Oh, I'm absolutely terrified of retiring because I have not got a clue what I'm going to do." And I think I kind of thought, oh, there's no shame in retiring and it's all going to be fun and everything. And it hadn't really occurred to me that some people might find that such an enormous loss. And all I would say really is the research bears out that working, as long as you feel valued and you're doing something that kind of is attached to your values, working is just as good for your mental health as retirement is. And that the vacuum that some people find when they retire, if they haven't really got something else that they really want to do, is real.
Yeah.
And I noticed that person has decided to study. It took me 4 years to decide to study something, because I've kind of got the physical side of things sorted. Practical, I was volunteering as well, but I just felt my brain was going to sleep. So I'm coming back again to it being a process, and you may not know exactly what you need. And if you need to and want to go back to work, do it. You've got, from the Office of National Statistics, 72, the age 72 for women, there may be men on the call as well, it's 70 for men, it's the start of old age. So I think it's all about what you want to do in that gap. The gap's getting smaller, but in that gap between working and old age, what do you want to do? Do you want to work right up until then, or do you want to do something different? So, it's very personal, but I probably don't want to work.
Yeah. Brilliant. And I think one of the things that is one of the questions that we'd love to ask you is, given your extensive experience as occupational therapists particularly, how have you personally found meaningful occupations in retirement? So what advice would you offer to fellow RCOT members who I know are buzzing in the chat at the moment, so forgive me if I'm not up to date with that, but what advice would you offer to fellow RCOT members seeking to engage in purposeful and fulfilling activities during this phase of life? So, Sue, we'll start with you first.
I'm going to go back to that. What gives you joy? What gives you fulfillment? Those are the areas that I've looked into. Also, things that you might find is a bit of a challenge, something that you perhaps have always wanted to do, but that haven't had the time because you've been at work. I use the principle of Ikigai, and people say, you know, what is that? And I always have to look it up, but it feels something that's important to me, and it's things you love, things you're great at, things that the world needs, and things that you can be paid for. But payment is something that can also be, you know, I guess in a way that's what I've followed with my retirement, or my sort of quasi-retirement, in trying to fulfill all those different elements of Ikigai. Yeah, and I volunteer with 4 different organisations. One is with a local almshouse group. I'm a trustee with those, so that's sort of very much head-based and trying to but again gives something back to the community. Another, I've done a Walking for Health course with Active Devon, because I'm down in Devon, hence the connection. And I now use that with a Walking for Health group at our local library, and that's been fantastic because that's been very much a community thing as well. I also, and I alluded to this, work with an organisation called the Wave Project, and they very kindly agreed to have 2 students at my suggestion. So that's going to be really stimulating and really exciting. And I get very cold and very wet in the sea, working with people with learning disabilities, autism, you know, the whole gamut of humanity really, and that's really great. And then I've just started working in a local library, a local museum, which, you know, again, that fulfills me. Plus I've got grandkids, plus I've got cats, plus I've got a garden, plus a husband, you know. So for me, occupying my time's not difficult, but the thing is, it's also great just to be able to sit back and read and contemplate. So, yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of did that audit at the start of thinking, what do I want to do? And then giving it time to evolve as well. And understanding
definitely.
new opportunities.
Yeah,
definitely. Helen, do you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would add to that, volunteering is great. And again, it bears out that mental health is enhanced by volunteering where you are valued. I can't emphasize that enough. I've taken on various voluntary roles since I retired, and some just didn't do it for me. They would do it for somebody else, but they just didn't do it for me. And so what I would say, if you've got a really strong work ethic, which I do have, I really struggled with giving those voluntary occupations up that I really didn't want to do. So my advice would be, dip your toe in, try it, and don't feel that you're obliged to continue. If you find something and it's not working for you, you're a volunteer, just leave it. Again, it's about how do you want to spend those years, which you may have good health, you may not have good health, but there's still lots of different occupations that you can do. It's what you want to do. I can put them in the chat later or in the follow-up. I've recommended a couple of books, but the one I absolutely love is one called Winter Fires. This is going to come up backwards. Winter Fires, Art and Agency in Old Age. And all I would say to that is, one of the things I picked out of that was, once you're retired, you never have to say you're unemployed. Whatever you do is absolutely fine, and it's time to do something totally unsuitable if you want to.
Love that. Sue, do you want to? So see, you've got your hand raised there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Helen and I have met through our campaigning about the legacy skills that we as occupational therapists can give back to the community of OTs and can give back to the community per se. And I would never have met Helen if we hadn't both been rather loud, rather opinionated OTs. Sorry, Helen.
But no, I love that. Thank you for joining us.
And thank you for our RCOT giving us that opportunity to have our say, really, because it's important. We are part of the whole OT family, and just because we've retired or are retiring as OTs doesn't mean to say we stop being OTs. And again, looking at the chat, so many people, it's been part of their lives for so many years, and it is a brilliant profession. I'll say it now.
Yeah, such a big part of your identity as well. I think that's with the adjustment of understanding your role in the world is, I think that's, Susan was saying a similar thing in terms of occupation, was understanding what's really important to you. So don't think about money, don't think about anything else, just think about what's important to you. Keeping your brain active, whether it's embracing change. I know that she is learning Spanish and BSL and works in a school and has been part of the been involved with a local U3A, is it U3A? She works as a group facilitator or volunteers as a group facilitator with those. So yeah, loads of different opportunities. And I think such good advice there, Helen, with like dipping your toe. You're not tied to commitment. This is your time to figure out exactly what you want to do and have autonomy over that as well, without being kind of, without, you don't need to tie yourself down. So thank you so much for this section of the call. We're gonna move on now and have a chat with Sahila, but we'll be back at the end with some questions. So brilliant. Sahila, are you there? There she is. Fabulous. I'll put myself on mute now.
Brilliant. Thank you, Claudia. What a fantastic discussion that was, and some fantastic tips there, which I'm definitely taking away. And lots and lots and lots of relevance to our workforce strategy, which of course is what I'm here to talk to you all about. So I'll start off by reminding people, if you haven't already seen it, on the 21st of March, cannot believe it's over a month ago, RCOT published its first ever UK-wide occupational therapy workforce strategy, together with an action plan for its delivery. Now, as I'm listening to the conversations I've just heard, and of course the context of today's event, what I would love to get a sense of and to hear from you all is what this strategy means to you as a group of people who have retired, or of course are thinking of retiring or transitioning to retirement. I think our panelists made this point really strongly. You are all an incredible part of the occupational therapy workforce. You've got a wealth of experience, you've got a depth of knowledge, and the broadest of skill sets. And like it's already been said, we have so much to learn from you if you will allow us to. And I'm really appreciative for some of the ideas that were shared in the chat in terms of how we might be able to do this. So without further ado, next slide, please. So the vision of our workforce strategy, it's clear. We want more of us positioned to have maximum impact in improving people's health and quality of life, because by doing this, we will be reducing people's experience of health inequity. And what we want by 2035 is to have an occupational therapy workforce that is confident and able to champion inclusion in every sense of the word. We want an occupational therapy workforce that is based mostly in the community, where people normally live, work, and thrive. And we want a workforce that is positioned to focus on prevention and early intervention. Finally, we want a workforce that has occupation, and we've heard so many examples of meaningful occupation that is at the forefront of our practice. There are lots of reasons why we, as the professional body for occupational therapy across the UK, really needed to publish a strategy with its action plan. So I really hope that you'll find some time to give it a read. We've got accessible versions available on our website. I will drop a link in the chat shortly. And we've also got an at a glance summary for those super busy people. Next slide, please. So how will we achieve this vision, I hear you ask? Well, quite simply, with your help and in true OT style, using actions that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. We've categorized these SMART actions under 4 workforce priorities, which I'm now going to speak to in turn. And the first of them is labeled Optimizing Occupational Therapy. So our SMART actions under this category will support occupational therapy practitioners to be change makers. Will help the occupational therapy workforce to use their skills, to use their knowledge, to lead and co-design innovative products, interventions, and services that will improve people's lives and well-being. And we'll be working with the occupational therapy workforce to champion innovative service delivery models that improve access to occupational therapy and achieve the health equity that we want for everybody. An example of the actions we're taking under this is working with our members to use the Innovation Hub as our digital platform to drive innovation and demonstrate the impact of occupational therapy. I will also soon share a link to the Innovation Hub. Next slide, please. Our next workforce priority is around retention and career development, and the smarter actions that we've detailed we have detailed in the action plan will be undertaking to support and promote the development of all occupational therapy practitioners, especially those from historically marginalised and underrepresented communities. We'll also be working with employers and the occupational therapy workforce at large to build our profession's capacity, confidence and capability to incorporate leadership, learning, research and innovation into practice. And an example of the action we're taking under this category is working with education providers, employers and our members to modernise our learning and development standards for pre-registration education and early careers. Next slide, please. Under this third strategic workforce priority, which is demonstrating value and impact, we're going to be undertaking some smart actions that will build our real-world evidence and research evidence for the profession. And we want this so that we can justify why we should be invested in as a workforce. Our smart actions under this category detail how we'll be working with leaders across health, across social care, across education and beyond to put forward the case for how and where to deploy our expertise so that we are adding the most value for people and their families, for the wider health and social care system, and to avoid these critical staffing shortages we heard in the introduction and that we are seeing across the occupational therapy workforce. A key action under this category that's already underway is the development of an updated research and innovation strategy, a really important piece of work that's led by our research and innovation team, and I'll share some information in terms of how people can get involved in this shortly. Next slide, please. Our final workforce priority is effective workforce planning, and we'll achieve our 2035 vision using a series of smart actions that support effective workforce planning right across the United Kingdom. What this means is that we'll be aiming to empower the occupational therapy workforce and our leaders to be able to access data, use data, and contribute to the workforce planning data and intelligence that's available to them. We also want our workforce and leaders to use that data and intelligence to make informed decisions about where within our health and social care systems we should be positioned to be adding the most value. So one of the things we'll be doing this year is undertaking a UK-wide occupational therapy workforce survey that builds on last year's survey and helps us understand changes and trends in the workforce. Next slide, please. Now, we've said it before and I'll say it again, we cannot do this without you. Together, we are stronger and able to make a bigger impact. So we have several opportunities for you, our members, to get involved in and shape our work. They're listed on the slide in front of us, and I'm sure there'll be things shared in the chat, or I will shortly. So that's all from me. Thank you for listening, but most of all, thank you for uniting behind our vision for an expanded occupational therapy workforce that is positioned to have maximum impact in improving people's health and quality of life. And I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Rachel Harrison, to say a little bit about our professional advisory service. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you, Suhaila. Right, so our professional advisory service, it's a confidential service unless people raise a safeguarding concern. And I noticed through the chat, actually, there's quite a lot of questions that people have been raising that I'd really encourage people to contact us about. For example, there was one about ill health and retirement. So please reach out to us. As I say, there's myself, Anne Keane, the professional advisory service manager, who's also an occupational therapist, and Keisha Ambrose. Number, and we're open Monday to Friday from 9 until 5 p.m. ish. Next slide, please. Okay, so what do we support you with as retired members or as people who are thinking about retirement? We just say to people, please just ask. We'll always do our best to answer queries or signpost people in that respect. So you might, for example, have a question about RCOT membership or HCPC, as has come up in the chat today. So just to clarify, although to be fair, it's being clarified through others' responses, people in the retired members category at RCOT should not be on the HCPC register, or they should not intend re-registering at the next auto renewal period. Sometimes we find that people have got questions in relation to insurance. So retired members do not have professional indemnity insurance cover. So run-off insurance is available to those that were RCOT professional members at the time of any historic claim. We often signpost people towards Aon UK, who are the brokers for our insurance, if they've got any insurance specific question. But as I say, we will do our best to answer any query and signpost if needs be. Next slide, please, Pav. So what does the HCPC advise retired members? Okay, it says that people can be retired and off the register and keep in contact, be involved with their profession. But the HCPC doesn't explicitly specify what that actually means. Okay, in terms of actually retiring from the HCPC register, individuals just need to log into their online accounts and complete the online voluntary deregistration request form. So the actual process of retiring from the HCPC register is a relatively straightforward one. But from what our members tell us and from what we're hearing today, it's the actual decision leading up to that moment that's the more complicated one. And we'd advise people that if you still have a question about leaving the HCPC register, to contact the registration team direct on the email address that's specified there. So as I say, just to recap, I'd really strongly advise people that if you've got any specific questions that relate to your situation, please reach out to us at the Professional Advisory Service and we'll do our best to help you. Thank you so much. Claudia, over to you.
Definitely. And just a note to anyone who's a host or a panelist, apologies if you've not been able to put your messages shown to everyone. That should be fixed now. So please do take a look. I'm really sorry about that. So I've got some slides to share with you, but I'll actually share that in the follow-up because I'd love to just get some final thoughts and pick out any questions that I can from the chat now. One thing that I would really love it if you could do is fill in the feedback form for this event, just so that we can make sure that we've got the kind of grounds to keep running them and we know that everyone is enjoying them. So I'm just going to pop the link to the chat, the link to the feedback form in the chat there. Let me just check that that's working. Brilliant. If you can just say that you've attended the transition to retirement event, because I'd love for us to keep running these events. I think it's been really, really, really useful to hear from you all. And I know that the chat's been really active as well. So please do use this as a space to, as I said, ask any questions. I am just going to quickly give a scan there, but is there any kind of, I guess, Helen, we'll go to you first. Have you got any kind of final thoughts, having read, everything in the chat? Have you got anything, any kind of closing comments that you'd like to add?
Sadly, I've not been able to read everything in the chat, but
that's okay, don't worry.
Because I didn't want to not listen at the same time. I've seen a few things.
Yeah.
No, I just really to wish all the people on the call, all the people watching the recording, to wish you all the best in your retirement journey, whether you're at the pre-contemplation stage or you've made the decision, or indeed if you're already a retired member. We hope that going forward, it's going to be worth your while staying with RCOT as a retired member. We're hopeful with the team that are in place now that there will be more opportunities to network, which is why Sue and I have been bothering them for years in the first place. So it's been really good that this event has taken place, and hopefully it's not the last one.
Brilliant, thank you. And Sue, any thoughts from yourself? I'll just have a quick look in the chat.
I think no question, if you're thinking about retiring, is inappropriate or silly, because it is a time of great transition. It's a time that can be quite frightening, particularly if you've been in the profession for many, many years. For me, I think I'd got tired of working, but not tired of being an OT. But I then had to really formulate my own thoughts about what the future as an OT was. And that's where I think Helen and I got together, because we could see the value that we had as retirees to the profession, and to developing the profession as well. And this has given us an opportunity to say to RCOT and to the wider professional community that there is life after work, there is life as OTs after work, albeit that you might be having that sort of retired moniker in front of your title of occupational therapist, but we'll never stop being OTs, and we'll always stop wanting to support people to achieve what they want from life, really. So keep asking, and there is lots of advice out there, and I think both Helen and I would say that we're around to support you. You know, if RCOT can put us in contact with you, then I certainly would be happy to answer questions. And as I've alluded to, I have got an X account, which isn't in my name, but is in sort of an X moniker, but I'm happy to share that if anybody wants that, and if that's appropriate as well.
Brilliant, thank you, Sue. So Hyla, see you back with us on chat there. Is there anything that you'd like to add? And Rachel, I'd invite you, if you're around as well, to add any final thoughts. I know we've had loads of stuff through about HCPC, and as Rachel said, please do, with individual questions around HCPC and what it means for you going forward, please do contact the past team. They're all ears. I know Rachel will talk through in a sec, but Sahila, will come to you first.
Brilliant, thank you. And I just literally wanted to give voice to some of those questions, Claudia. We've had some questions which are around maintaining your membership with RCOT as you're thinking about retirement or transitioning to retirement. We've got, of course, some questions around maintaining registration with HCPC, which, as many of us will know, protects our ability to use occupational therapist as our protected title, slightly different to your membership with RCOT, and some questions around your pension, which you may find some support around within your employing organisation or with the what they called your pension provider. I'm not sure if that's the right kind of catch-all term sort of for them. So really just to offer a little bit of signposting there for some of those queries that may have come through. Thank you.
Thank you. So in terms of RCOT membership, we do offer RCOT retired membership, which is what we're working on at the moment to try and make sure that's the best offer that we can give to our retired community, and really does help facilitate the things that you need, such as sessions like this, but also connections with each other, worthwhile volunteering opportunities. So we do, if you are considering retiring, please do let us know, and we'll move you on to the retired rate, which is a reduced rate, which basically helps to keep you connected to the community. And as I said, we're working hard to make sure that our offer to retired members is as good as it can be, and it is the kind of gold standard. In terms of HCPC, Helen, do you want to jump in? Helen, sorry, Rachel, do you want to jump in at this point?
Yeah,
Helen really
no,
put you on the
absolutely.
spot there.
No, it's absolutely fine. I think that it can be a bit of a confusing message in that respect. And what I'd really encourage people is rather than kind of necessarily making the decision yourself, unless you're absolutely certain about what you've got to do and what it means for you, is just reach out to us and have that conversation. You know, I'd really encourage that. I can absolutely relate to what it feels for people in relation to that journey. I almost feel I went into semi-retirement, not being on the register for nearly 5 years. But yeah, just reach out to us, as I say, and ask those specific questions. And I think it's much better if we do that on an individual basis, and then we can give you that individualized answer. Thank you.
I think in terms of, if you deregister, can you re-register if you change your mind? And is that along the return to practice?
Can re-register, but it depends on the length of time that you've been off the register. So if you've been off the register for 2 or more years, HCPC would require you to complete their return to practice requirements in that respect. So if you've been off the register for 2 up to 5 years, you have to complete 30 days worth of updating. And if it's over 5 years, you have to complete 60 days worth of updating. But yeah, just have those conversations, as I say, with us direct, and then we can best answer them and signpost you. And I think has been touched on already, pension advice is a biggie for people, and I think it's really important that people get the right advice on that, and we can't obviously give that because your pension situation is unique to you. So I'd really encourage people to consider that, because that can be quite a complicated thing to navigate. So yeah, hope that helps.
Yeah, I think from a pension point of view, definitely there are people out there that can help to steer you in the right direction. And I know we've had, I think, some message in the chat around people who have had coaching through retirement, and different workplaces offer that, and it is going to be a different offer to each person depending on your pension. I've just seen a message in the chat there around someone who found return to practice quite a challenge. I had a friend that did. We've just ran a similar session to this, but it was a return to practice session hosted by Rachel and the team, and the recording of that will be on the website in the next few days. So just so you know, we do offer support for people who are thinking about returning to practice as well. And Pass, our hero Pass, also offer help with that. So please do get in contact. As we've said, we've put in the details. What you'll expect in terms of follow-up is the session is recorded, as I said. We'll send this round. We'll also send round an email with the link to the slides, the recording, and another link to the feedback form, and would really, really appreciate your feedback. But as we're at 1:15, I would just like to say a huge thank you to the speakers on the call today, a huge thank you to everyone who's been in the chat with us and offering advice to your peers. That's exactly the kind of thing that we want to try and facilitate. So thank you again, and I hope you all have a brilliant rest of your day, and we'll hopefully see you all soon. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.